Welcome to Boys Under the Hood. Pat Kelly joined by James Stevenson, owner of Precision Auto Repair in West Springfield, Massachusetts. Thanks for joining us today. What's going on, man?
Hey, Pat. How are you?
I'm doing great. The first thing that I'd like everyone to notice is this clearly stolen stop sign behind us. Where did you get that from?
I was driving to the gym one morning a couple of years ago, and it was a little bit icy, and it was Shaker Road in East Long Meadow, and some guy had driven down. He missed the stop sign, went right through it, and then drove straight across the road into the woods. And so, I stopped and obviously tried to help him. And then when the DPW people showed up and the police and everybody were there, I said, "What are you guys doing with the sign?" And they're like, "I don't know. We don't care." And I just threw it in my truck.
Okay, so it's not stolen.
Well,
it was actually a public service because it would have been litter otherwise.
I hope I can't get in trouble for it.
I mean, it might be too late now that we're on film. So,
I think it was like 10 years ago I've had that thing sitting around.
Well, we've got an automotive shop owner to talk about here in just a little bit, but I do want to touch on our sponsors. Precision Auto in West Springfield is the best shop around and currently growing. Tell us about how that feels.
Yeah, we're always looking for for good people to help us grow, but we're trying to add we're growing. We're adding another shop to the mix, and so we need some good people to grow with us. And so we're always looking for experienced talent. But we also really like talent that we can build, that we can help grow. And so we have a pretty strong training program and a pretty strong crew in-house already. But we are offering up to a $5,000 sign-on bonus for technicians. And if you are not a technician but you know one, we'll give you $1,000 just to refer one to us.
Now, does that speak overall how competitive it is to get qualified techs in the shop industry?
I don't know. I mean, I think so, but for us, it's we just want to show you that we're serious. We're serious about hiring the right people. We don't want just everybody. We want people that are serious, that want to work for us, and understand what we're doing, and they want to put out a better product. And I don't know. We're fine with paying for that.
Now, you're not looking for someone though who's overtrained. Is that a bad thing if someone comes in thinking they know what they're doing?
I actually prefer to hire a little bit less experience. Like 3 to 5 years is a sweet spot for me, and then we hire based on attitude, aptitude, and then ethics. We want somebody that's positive, and then, we want somebody that's smart, and then we want somebody that's honest. And then from there, we'll give them the time, the tools, and the training that they need to be successful.
One of the things I wanted to mention as well for your shop in particular, you don't work weekends, you don't work nights, and you've got major holidays off. Is that important for the guys to get time off to spend with their families like that?
I think everything that we do is, you have that why. And, for me and for most of the people that work with us and for us, it's that why is all about family. And so it's very important to us to make sure that, everybody has that time off at night and on weekends so that they can decompress, get away from work, and, spend some time with their family.
The Boys Under the Hood podcast is also sponsored by Lotus Business Solutions. Can you speak to what Lotus does and what we do?
Yeah. So Lotus Business Solutions is a business solutions firm that specializes in independent auto repair shops. And so what we do is we take away a lot of the pain points that small business owners that own auto repair shops have, such as if they feel that there's not enough time in the day, if they feel that they're working a million hours but not getting anywhere, they're not profitable, they have issues with comebacks and quality issues and things like that. We are a consulting or coaching firm for independent auto repair shops, and so we do as minor as weekly coaching calls, and then we have some shops where we do site visits, and then we own and manage a variety of shops and other businesses too. And so we've got plenty of experience doing it, and we've got a lot of really, really good shops, and we're always looking to add some more.
I wanted to mention if you do own a shop and you're interested in learning more about what Lotus does, please leave a comment, some information, or they can always email us, right?
They can. You can always email us at info@lotuspe.us, or you can just go right to lotuspe.us, and you can check out our podcast there, and you're always welcome to submit a form there, and somebody will contact you within a day or so.
You were just talking about pain points. We got a guy in South Carolina who looks like he could use a little bit of help. Okay. You want to jump into this question?
I do, yeah.
Bruce, thank you so much for sending the question in to us. Bruce is an auto repair shop owner for 15 years in South Carolina. He writes, "Our shop has been around for 15 years servicing European cars predominantly. We're established with a good customer base, but have received and have recently tried to grow that base. Our reviews are mostly stellar, but lately I've noticed an uptick in bad reviews.
Okay.
All of our bad reviews have been complaints about costs, even when they are just diagnostics. I regularly call around to find out prices to be right in the middle of what other shops are doing, and if we're not, then we adjust. What's the best way to quickly recognize and rid ourselves of bottom feeders before they waste more of our time and leave a bad review? What's the danger in looking around to see what other people are doing in terms of what they're charging?
Man, I think there's so much to unpack from that question, and so this leads to why coaching is so valuable for this industry and then so many others, right? So on the surface, it seems like their pricing might be wrong or something like that. But when I hear that, I think, all right, so they're trying to now they're trying to now acquire customers, right? They're trying to get new customers to come in the door. Perfect. Well, how are you advertising for them? Like, what is your call to action? Are you building more brand, or do you think that they're doing more like, hey, come in, we've got this $10 oil change? What do you think that would be?
This is something that we've talked about before. When you start doing specials like that, like a $10 oil change, I think really, if you're going to do that, that should be the first step in taking the customer into being a regular maintenance customer. If you're gonna do just a $10 oil change and you're never gonna see that guy again, I would say don't waste your time on it. I don't like specials like that because I feel like once you do that, there's no backing off of that. They get the $10 oil change this week, and then next week when it goes up to whatever the regular retail of it is, they're shocked, and now you're a jerk, and now they give you a bad review. I don't feel like that's a good way to go about it at all.
And I don't know how many times we've put ads out there for any business, and when you harvest what you plant. And so what I mean by that is, if you are looking for $10 customers, you're going to get $10 customers. And when you try to charge them full price for a repair that you need to charge full price for, they're just not going to be happy. And so that's one aspect of it, right? Like, how are you marketing? If that were a client of mine, that would be one of the first things that I would look at. What are you going after? What is the message? And we talked about it, I believe, last week. And, you want to spearfish. You don't want to throw out a big net, because if you spearfish, you're going to harpoon exactly what you want.
Right.
And if you are casting a big net, you're going to pull back a boot and like an old license plate, and you'll probably get some fish in there too, but, for the most part, you're going to pull back a lot of stuff that maybe you're not interested in. And so, how you shape your message, even like what your culture looks like, even like if you have an ad that has a call to action, that's great. But like, what does all the rest of your social media look like? What does your website look like? What does your building look like? What does your staff dress like? And so all of these things go into, what, like everything we do is advertising. Every single thing that we do is advertising. How the hat you're wearing, the shirt, like how everything is advertising. And so we just want to be very cognizant of that all the time in any of our messages. And then what we're asking for, our call to action, it has to really point at the person that we're trying to get. Like, we want somebody that wants, at my repair shops, we want people that want quality repairs done relatively quickly, right? Good, fast, cheap. You can have two, you can't have all three.
Right.
And so, my businesses go after the model of really, really, really good and, relatively quick, within reason. Sometimes we run into issues with like sourcing parts and things, but for the most part, we're pretty quick shop. You can't get really, really good guys that can do a really, really good job unless you pay them properly. And then they've got to have the proper equipment. Otherwise, they don't want to work for you. They've got to have nice lifts. They've got to have nice uniforms, a nice environment to work on. And these things, unfortunately, cost money. And that doesn't mean that every single person that calls your business is going to be your customer. And so it's very important to, one, have the right message. And then two, when they contact you, you've got to have some good screening questions. And you've got to kind of understand as much as you can about the person on the other end of the phone, because just, again, they're calling. It doesn't mean that they're your customer. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I'm always quality over quantity, and I would rather do business. Well, let's just take a restaurant, for example, right?
Sure.
I'd rather pay good money for a good quality meal than $5 for a Happy Meal. And like you said, you get who you fish for, and that's a really good analogy. It's the difference between going on one of those boats that has 100 people with all their lines over, or going on a boat that's going strictly for tuna.
Those
right?
boats look like an actual mess.
No, it's true.
Nothing but tangled lines.
Tangled lines.
No one knows what they're doing.
Right. They don't know whose fish it is when the lines get. I mean, I've been on those boats.
Really?
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to get the fish, but yeah, there's like 10 those guys under the boat, all tangled up like that.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that you do well is not just the message that you put out there, but when someone comes to the shop, it's clean. It's put together. There's no oily rags all over the place. You've got a nice little living area that is probably sweeter than my bedroom, to be honest. But that's part of it. That's all part. You mentioned everything is advertising, and that's whether you're a person or a business, right? It's the way you look. It's the way you speak. It's the way you address people. It's the way you allow them to address you, right?
Yeah.
It all goes into it. So, in Bruce's case, and these things do cost money. You mentioned, paying the guys right, getting the equipment right, making the shop right. How does that translate? Like, when you put that money forward to do all that, how quickly does that come back to you?
I don't know. That's a tough one to answer, right? How quickly does it come back to you? It all depends on like your message and who your target customer is and how much each widget is that you're selling and all of those things. But there is a large audience of people out there that want value, and they're not looking for lowest dollar service. They understand that they want somebody experienced and somebody using proper parts and all of these things. And having said that, like, everybody gets this type of bad feedback. Like I've heard that many times. It's my friend can do it cheaper. Respectfully, go have your friend do it then.
So my question there is, okay, your friend does it cheaper.
Yeah.
Now you find yourself on the side of the road because the wheel fell off. What are you going to do? Call your buddy from the side of the road and tell him to come warranty what he's done, or?
We had a guy when our shop was in Springfield. I had a guy come in one time, and I don't remember the year or anything like that. So, but it was a newer Audi at the time, and Audis, when their brakes wear out, in a lot of different cars, you have to use a computer to actually compress the caliper, right? As your brake caliper pushes against the brake pads, there's a piston, and it continuously extends. So as the pad wears, you're always kind of right there, brake to rotor all the time, so to speak. And so what had happened was his brakes began to wear out. And so he came into us, and at that point they were just about grinding, almost, And so we gave him a price for brakes, and he says, I'll let you know. The wheels are already off the car. He's not going to let us know. We understand that something we missed something. You know what I mean? The price was wrong. We didn't pitch it properly. Like, there was something missing from that equation. So the guy says, I'll let you know. And so he comes back on a tow truck, maybe I don't know, 2 days later, 3 days later, right?
No, wait a minute.
Yeah.
The guy brought a tow truck to your shop.
No, so he drove the car out. He drove the car in.
Okay.
He drove the car out, and like a day or 2 days later, he comes back on a tow truck. And there's a visible pool of fluid on the tow truck bed coming from the rear of the vehicle, right? Not a good day for this guy, right? No. So I'm like, hey, what happened? Wow, I believe his name was Matt too. I say, hey Matt, what happened? What's going on? Whatever. Did the brakes fail? He goes, you're never gonna believe this. He goes, while I was here, he says, I was texting a buddy of mine that works on cars, and he said that he could do it, so much cheaper than how you guys were doing it. And he says, and I was driving down the highway today or yesterday or whatever it was, and he says, on the brakes, there's no brake pedal. He goes, and I get out of the car, and there's all this fluid on the ground in the the behind the car. And so an older style brake caliper, you would just use a special tool and you could recompress that caliper. And in this case, you have to use a scan tool to really release it, and then a special tool to push it back in.
Right.
And he said that his friend said that he didn't have it, but he had a workaround. There is no workaround for it. You need that special, you need a computer that can do that. And so the friend had a workaround, and the friend's workaround was actually to remove the caliper from the vehicle, disconnect it, and put it in a vise and crank it back, effectively destroying this caliper.
Right.
And cranked it back, both of them, and just destroyed them, and then put them on the car, And then, there's no quality check or anything like that. There's none of that. The guy put it all back together, pushed or drove the car out, probably told the customer, hey, look, it'll feel soft for a couple days, just keep driving it. It shouldn't. It should feel perfect the second the customer picks it up. And so what ended up happening was the guy had to replace 2 calipers. And so at the time, those brake calipers, first of all, the guy used probably the cheapest, crappiest pad I had ever seen in my life. They used some rotors I've never even heard of. So he got like the lowest quality parts that you could possibly get, installed by a guy that had no business installing the parts on the car. And then those 2 brake calipers, I believe at the time, I don't know how much they are now, but I think they were like $1,200 or something like that per brake caliper, electronic calipers per caliper. And so, we're doing the work and everything, and the guy was great. And I just said, hey, how much did you save? How much did you save? And so, mind you, he got cheap brake rotors, he got cheap brake pads, he got his calipers destroyed, and obviously now he's in for a tow bill too. And he says, I saved $40. $40 is what he saved.
And that's the actual money. Like, that doesn't even include the time that he took.
It's crazy.
To me, you can't put a price on time. I mean, my time is, particularly when I'm not working, is very, very expensive.
Yeah.
I won't do anything unless I can save a substantial amount of money, and that includes mowing my lawn.
Yeah.
Right. So it didn't pay off for the guy.
It didn't.
Lesson learned there.
Yeah, it did not pay off for the guy. And so when we look at like a couple other aspects of that, it's very important to add a lot of value too, right? How do we greet the people when they come in, right? How do we sell the jobs? Are we giving pictures? Are we transparent in our repair? What does our sales process look like? Are we building value when we are doing our presentation to the customer, right? The customer comes in, we determine what's wrong with the vehicle and what we need to do, and then from there, we have to explain it to the customer, and we explain it with pictures and videos. And so how are you doing that? Are you building value in the tech? Are you building value in the shop? All these different things that are very, very essential to any type of a sales process. How are you following up with the customer? How are you explaining these jobs? Like, the customer at some point is not seeing value potentially, right? You're targeting the wrong person, or they're not seeing value. There's something missing from that equation.
And one of the things that you do that you're vigilant about, and I appreciate, is when you bring your vehicle in, after 2 or 3 visits, you keep a solid record of what's going on. And you'll say things like, we saw 9 months ago that, maybe your brakes are ready for this. Let's do this now.
Yeah.
How important is that, just keeping the record? To me, it's a huge value because it means you care.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredibly important to keep computerized records, because we are doing a job where we are servicing a vehicle, and we're trying to keep your warranty current as well. And so if we're not doing that properly and keeping proper records, we're doing you a disservice. So the first thing is the message.
Right.
The message, you've got to have that message. You've got to have that right culture. What does your sales pitch look like? How are you adding value? What amenities do you offer your customer? Like, how do you contact them? How do you, just like, what does all that look like, right?
And I'll say this as well, for an automotive repair shop, if I see something where they're talking about their lowest price is really their message, that's a red flag for me right away. I'm going somewhere else.
That's what their focus is. You cannot provide the top quality service done by the top quality people in a top quality facility with everybody up on their training and having the proper equipment and not filing tools down. Anybody that works in an auto repair shop understands what I'm talking about. Sometimes there is no tool, there is no like perfect situation. You have to kind of contort yourself to fit into these situations sometimes, and in a lot of cases there are special tools for each of these things, but some different types of nuts and bolts have just been manufactured by manufacturers now, just different things that require certain special tools. And you'll see guys, instead of sourcing the proper tool, they'll file something down, they'll grind something down, and they'll make something work. No, man, like, real techs don't want to deal with that stuff.
Right.
A real technician wants the proper tools. They want to be able to go and do a proper job, and they don't want to deal with a lot of that nonsense, and I don't know, you understand how there's so many layers now, to this one question.
And that's a big part of having a happy employee as well, having the right equipment. I've worked at radio stations where it's a struggle to do the job, and you think, well, I'm getting paid to do it anyway, so what's the difference? But there's a big difference. you want the right tools for the job. That's
Yeah.
it. It's part of keeping employees happy.
Yeah, 100%. You're 100% right. And then the last thing I believe he asked was about pricing. He says he checks his pricing against his competitors.
Oof.
Why? Why? Right? Like, why would you do that?
I mean, I guess like intuitively you want to know where you sit, I guess, with your competition. But
Yeah.
I want to say this. I do an afternoon radio show. I don't know what anyone else is doing because I don't care. I do not give a rat's ass what Jimmy Scott is doing on the new Mix 90, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because I have my own standards.
Yeah.
You know, I have my standard, and it's for me, most of it.
Right.
And that's really, and I know I have an audience, but the truth is, I work to my standards.
Yes.
I don't care what these guys are doing.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Yeah. It's none of your business. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it does not matter what anybody else is doing because you have different amenities, you have different technicians, you have different things that appeal to your customer base, right? You have to, the heck was that movie? You build it, they will come. Field of Dreams.
Yes, that's right.
Right? If you build it, they will come, right? And so you want to build these things, you want to build your processes, your procedures, whatever everything is going to look like for the customer that you're trying to attract. Don't worry about the ones that you're not trying to attract. You know, they're going to come in, you're going to get them, you're going to get bad reviews, all that stuff's going to happen. But like, you have to, your labor rate should be based on your expenses. And your expenses are based on the amenities and the insurance and the location and, you know, all of these different things that you have. And then from there, your job is to go out and find the right customer for your business and make sure that they have a consistently high quality experience. If you're not doing that, then, you know, you've got a problem. But like that pricing your way into it, like the Oreo cookie method of pricing, right? Well, this guy, shop A is here and shop C is here. And so I'm just going to put myself right in the middle. That's silly. That's silly.
It's almost like you're backing into
Yeah.
what your profits are
Yeah.
that way. Like
Yeah.
how can you establish what you're charging if you don't know what you're charging back here?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
what you're actually charging without knowing that,
Yeah.
that's dangerous.
It's insanely dangerous because, you know, again, we just covered, you know, your expenses are not my expenses. You know, maybe my expenses are less than your expenses, you know, like I don't need to charge if I don't need to charge for it, but you know, you have to make sure that you maintain your margins because it is an expensive industry to be in with all of the tools and with all of the training and with all of the software and all of these things that you need, and never mind just to attract the proper talent, you want to pay them properly, you know? And so should I race to the bottom and try to be the absolute cheapest in this day and age when it's difficult to hire really, really quality talent anyways? Am I going to diminish the value of what they're doing, my staff is doing, just because you bought a car that maybe you shouldn't have, that you haven't maintained, and that you don't want to fix properly, you know? And so we see those, and then we see 99 and a half excellent customers before we see a half of one that's, you know, could be a challenge. And you never want to, like, I don't like the expression bottom feeders or anything like that, you know, that he used. I think,
Yeah, it's a little harsh, but we get what he's saying.
Yeah, I understand. I understand exactly what he's saying, you know, but, you know, there are some customers that are meant for your business, and then there are some customers that aren't. And, you know, to kind of round that out, if you are getting these customers that are consistently coming in based on your new method of acquiring people, you know, when you're trying to grow your base, okay. So you either potentially have a problem with your marketing plan, your message, you have a problem potentially with, you know, what you're, and so that's everything, right? Like that's what your building looks like, that's what your uniforms look like, that's your sales process, like that's all of that stuff, right? But, you know, sales process is also something a little different. You may have a real problem with your sales process, you know, and what does that look like? And then pricing your labor based on other people is silly. You know, what are my expenses versus your expenses? Like one has zero bearing, you know, on the other.
I mean, and I've been in shops like from down here to up here, and there's a difference between a shop that's got a big jar of pickled eggs on the counter, and you've seen those shops,
yeah,
right?
Of course.
And a shop that's run properly.
Yeah.
It's just, it's night and day. And, you know, for me, the quality always wins out. And your customers feel the same way. I've talked to a bunch of them personally.
Yeah. I mean, we have a method that works, and it's definitely, it's not for everyone. We have, at a lot of my businesses, we have had, criticism about price many times, and it's unfortunate. And sometimes, if we miss our mark, then we always, we'll always go above and beyond to make it right. But I can say in all these years that I've had any businesses, the only people that ever have been dissatisfied later are people that never come back to us and tell us that there was a problem. They never asked, hey, help me understand this charge, or help me understand this whatever, or help me understand. They went to some kid that they're friends with, the guy that compresses the calipers in a vise instead of with the proper tools, and they went to this guy that doesn't have enough knowledge to know what I do, right? And so, but he's criticizing what I do from a distance, right? Isn't that how a lot of society is now?
Yeah, it's unusual to me that people are hesitant to come to someone when they're dissatisfied. Yeah, one of the places that I am very careful of is at a restaurant. I don't like sending food back because I've worked in the back of the house and I know how that ends up. Yeah. I'm not saying all the time, but they're never happy, they're insulted. But if you've had a bad experience with a shop, say something.
Yeah, tell them, any business, go tell them that there's a problem. Don't just text them nasty things and then go online and
I had a crappy time at Precision Auto. They screwed me over, blah, blah. No.
Come back. We'll give you your money back. If you're not happy, just come back. We'll just give you your money back.
You've got to allow the business to resolve the issue.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that's just unfair, and you're just squawking on social media.
Yeah. And I think that good customers. We have I have a shop out in Kentucky, and that shop got kind of beat up one day with a review. And so it's an excellent shop. And so they had called the person. It was a one-time customer that had come in. It was a drive-by customer. They had, I can't even remember what the issue is, but some kind of a noise or something, and it prompted them to pull right into this shop. The shop got them right in the door, took a look at the car, and determined that whatever the fix was going to be, I believe a wheel bearing or something like that, it was going to be $300-400 to fix this thing, and the car would be out same day, but the guy was going to have to wait about an hour and a half to get the car even in before they could do the work. And so the guy said, no, thank you, and the shop never charged him, nothing. And so the customer leaves, and then he goes online to some town forum and really just kind of abused, the shop owner, the current, the current owner. And, so he calls me up and he's very frustrated. And the advice I gave him is actually advice that you gave me one time. I got some bad feedback. And I was very upset about something that someone had said for some reason, right? And that always goes back to our ego, right? We all have an ego,
right?
And so what is that? That's what your perception of yourself is based on your inner monologue, right? Yeah. And so I felt a certain kind of way because this kid didn't give us a fair shake and was criticizing, and and wouldn't speak to us about it, and I remember being, kind of like really not aggressive, but just like, what the heck, like, why would this guy do this? And you and I were talking about it. You looked at me in the eyes and you said, James, if he doesn't know enough about what you do, he can't criticize what you do. And so if you know that he doesn't know, then why do you care? And so I just, at that instant, it just kind of washed away from me. He has no idea what goes into the process, and he doesn't want me to explain it to him, and he doesn't care. He just wants to get a response, and so you have to be protective of your time and your energy and your, and all of that stuff. It's very, very important. It's to deal with staff and deal with vendors and deal with clients or customers and deal with all of that stuff. Man, that is strenuous, especially when you're trying to grow a business. And, we've talked about this many times. I don't think people ever set out to intentionally do a bad job. I think that just sometimes things happen, and maybe despite all systems and everything, maybe they've missed their mark. Maybe something went wrong and they didn't see it. It's an honest mistake. Well, just tell them, and they'll 99 of it 100 times, they're going to fix the problem. You just have to bring it to the business owner's attention or the manager or whoever, and then if they don't, and they say, go kick rocks, then you've got a problem. But, we're not talking about those situations.
Right, and that's something to recognize as well, right? If you feel like you've been wronged. There's a difference between an honest mistake or an honest screw up and a malicious one.
Yeah.
Rarely in any industry does someone make a malicious mistake unless you're their ex. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
but seriously,
Yeah.
and I think I'm guilty of it as well. Like when you've been wronged, we're always quick to be like, and then you just got to think just take a deep breath. The guy made a mistake. Allow him to fix the mistake, because if you're not willing to do that, then you're in a tough spot in your life.
You got, like, I don't know, man. You know, it's a cool world we're living in. Everything is like ever evolving and ever changing, and you know, and so some shops out there are just legitimately like they're just not great shops.
Get them in,
right?
get them out.
Yeah,
we won't see them again, and we know that.
And so, you know, if that works for some people, that's fine. And some people, you know, kind of. I don't know, you know, people run their businesses differently. We're not talking about those shops, right? We're talking about like good shops that are interested in doing a really, really good job for people and building a good name and you know, having really, really good staff that can be happy about where they work, right? How many people have you met? They're like, oh, you know, I work here. And you're like, oh, shit, you know, like, what's that like, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, what's that like? You know, you never want to be the person that owns that business.
No, you don't.
Yeah, ever.
So, Bruce, I hope we helped you out here.
Yeah,
a little bit.
And Bruce, if you're if you're interested in learning more about this, you just contact us. LotusPE.us. There's a contact page there, and you can find this whole podcast library on there. And so the way that we would help you professionally, aside from here, is we would learn a lot more about you and your business and your marketing plan and all of those different things. And then from there, we would determine and build out what a comprehensive plan would look like, and then we would hold you accountable to that plan.
Right.
And that's what people pay us for.
So
as far as media, financial, all of that.
So that's part of it, and we've talked about this before. The show Restaurant Rescue, right? Where they come in, they tell the business what's wrong with it. They say you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to
shut it down, and shut it down.
Because right.
John Taffer.
Yeah, John Taffer. I love him because he's right to the point too.
Yeah.
Right, he'll get right in your face.
Yeah.
How many of those businesses that he's gone into, and they always say this? We've always done this the same way. We're not willing to change.
Oh my gosh, it's nauseating.
Like you have to be accountable for the new plan, and you've got to stick to the new plan. You can't, as soon as that person goes away, revert back to that same thing that wasn't working in the first place.
Yeah, business before COVID was different. People were different before COVID, right? Before February, March of 2020, the world, everything was different. And so, just how we deal with anything is different. I think that is a very narrow mindset when people say, oh, well, we've been doing it this way forever, we should continue to do it this way. Like, I live in a place that is not like fully rooted in reality, right? And so I don't mean that from like any type of like mental health standpoint or anything like that, but what I mean is like, I dream big, right? And like my goals are monstrous. And when I first started out, I heard all the time about how I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, I'm in the wrong industry, I'm in all of this stuff. And now, Precision Auto will be 18 in a couple, maybe a week, I think 2 weeks, something like that, and so now I own multi-shops, multi-businesses, all of this stuff. I did all of these things that, people all said that you couldn't do because you just try to get 1% better every day, right? And when these people come at you with this noise and this, this bad feedback and everything, you just sit there and say, okay, well, what is the feedback? Is it valid? Did I screw up? And if I screwed up, then let's make it right. And if not, then, sometimes it's just baggage that other people have, and you just can't let them rent space in your head for free. It's valuable real estate.
And here's some proof of the process. For 9 years in a row, Precision Auto Repair in West Springfield voted the best shop in West Side.
Yeah, and you know what this week is? This is 6 years for us doing this, sitting across here talking into microphones.
Where's the cake?
I know. I don't eat cake. I don't eat cake.
No, we don't. We don't. Thank you for joining us for the Boys Under the Hood podcast. Yeah. And please, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, leave them, because frankly, it gives us stuff to talk about.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, and if you're struggling with your marketing plan, if you're struggling with customers, if you're struggling with your financials, your marketing plan, your internal process, you feel like it's just you're putting out fires all the time, you really need to reach out to us. And there's no cost, no obligation. We'd love to have a conversation with you, and hopefully we can give you some insight to make your life a little bit easier. And and then we just kind of go from there. But we love helping shops, and anything we could do to help you, you let us know.
James, happy birthday, buddy.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time, Boys Under the Hood.